Hepatitis reported at a Scarborough public school. A cleaning mystery at Cedar Brae Collegiate. And who's spending what at Pickering Council? I'm Teresa Madalino in the Scarborough newsroom of Rogers Television. A high-risk takedown in Scarborough late Tuesday afternoon.
Come back to the sound of my voice. Do it now.
Members of the emergency task force move in on a white van in the McNichol and Kennedy area of Scarborough. SPN cameraman Rob Ford caught in the action. His news cruiser just in front of the van as police draw their weapons. 2 suspects are apprehended.
That it was the white male with the black jacket that has one of the firearms.
Police say they responded following reports of weapons seen near a building on Silver Spring Boulevard. 1 fake gun has been found. No word on any other weapons being seized. The investigation continues. Two Scarborough students are suffering from hepatitis. Both the public school board and the public health department confirm this. The children, believed to be related, attend Cedar Drive Junior Public School and have been diagnosed with hepatitis A. According to the school board, the students became ill after a trip to India. Public health officials say this is in no way connected to the ongoing support worker strike, and there is no reason for panic. An inspector has visited Cedar Drive Junior Public School and given it the all clear. Hepatitis A has a 28-day incubation period. No other students at the Scarborough school have symptoms. A package has been sent home to parents outlining the symptoms, which include fever, vomiting, sore stomach, and yellow skin. Although school cleanliness isn't the issue here, it is the main topic of discussion as the support worker strike drags on. SPN's Jennifer Stanley reports.
On day 11 of the Toronto School Board support staff strike, Cedar Brae Collegiate students report their school has been cleaned up. Students say they saw a truck with North York markings on it parked outside their school Monday night. They also say they saw a group of men dressed as cleaners going into the school. Tuesday morning, all the messes in the bathrooms and hallways were gone. Cedar Brae's principal Robert Milne says there haven't been any cleaners in the school, but there have been supervisory staff taking care of problems like plumbing.
If there's a flood or something, they're supposed to look after that. If there's a plumbing problem, they have manager plumbers that come in and do that because they have to do that. And those people are usually allowed to cross the picket line. So nobody's going in and cleaning. It's just that the manager come in. If they see a dumped over garbage pail, they'll just pick it up.
And how do you feel about the offers that have been made so far for you guys?
SPN wasn't the only one covering Cedar Brae Tuesday. These grade 12 media students are doing a story on the strike for a school project. They have been videotaping the situation in and outside of their own school, as well as interviewing many of the support staff.
Just describe to me how you feel about the strike overall.
They want members of the Toronto District School Board to know not only do they understand what the strike is about, but they support it.
It just seems like the school is just giving us the whole runaround and just trying like dumb students don't know what's going on, and we shouldn't even bother trying to get involved with this. Just sit back and enjoy the days off or whatever, but we want to know what's going on, and it seems that the school won't let us know.
It's not fun, and I think that they're not getting much respect from the teachers and the people we've talked to. Some teachers are really supportive, some aren't, and everyone goes through this, and I think that they deserve a little more support.
Along with Cedar Brae, Saytech, Lamoureux, and David and Mary Thompson Collegiate were targets of mass protest.
The point of the mass pickets is just to let the public know, and the government and the board, that we mean business. We're not just going to be out here at various locations where we cannot be effective in closing the school down.
Union representatives are considering Tuesday's mass picket a success. They say they will target 12 more schools Wednesday. Most likely, 3 or 4 of them will be in Scarborough. At Lamoureux Collegiate Institute in Scarborough, Jennifer Stanley, SPN.
As Scarborough schools continue to be targeted by mass pickets, there appears to be no end in sight. On Monday, the mediator quit, leaving the board and the union alone butting heads. At the same time, the provincial government also indicated their lack of desire to intervene. Premier Mike Harris said he has no plans to introduce back-to-work legislation.
today's news, he's saying that the money is there at the board, and that he's not going to intervene, that the board has the money for our increase.
Mowat says the Premier's comments are making union members wonder why they are picketing in the first place if the money is there.
I understand the figures to be the total cost of our wage increase will be $10 million, and that there is a contingency fund that the Toronto District School Board has to help them cope with wages and amalgamation, and that amount is $257 million.
I think the first thing that should happen is the province and the school board should sit down and determine, is there in fact enough money in the Toronto School Board to resolve this issue?
Phillips says he's disappointed with the way the government is handling the situation. He says the province should look into the board's finances and take it from there.
Reach an agreement on that. If there isn't, the province has to step in and do something we've been suggesting all along, and that is that make sure that the school boards have the resources to be able to adequately remunerate their staff.
The school board wants to go to binding arbitration, but the union doesn't want to. Scarborough trustee Elizabeth Moyer says there's a lot of confusion over the board's finances.
The government gave 1.95% as an increase across the board, accepting caretaking for us. We are already over budget in that, so we pay our caretakers more than the government gives us funding for, and they gave us zero in that line for this year. So that means we did not get 1.95% more to pay our caretakers. In fact, we're negative, and we're still negative because they gave us nothing.
The garbage continues to pile up at local schools, but the board has no plans on closing any before Easter weekend. Moyer says the board and the union remain $10 million apart. Outside Lamoureux Collegiate in Scarborough, Cindy Dexter, SPN.
I think it's ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Where's our money going? What are we spending it on? You know? No, I feel sorry for the little guy. I really do.
When you're a single person paying this increase, that's a lot of money, you know. And now Laston kept saying no, our taxes wouldn't go up.
That reaction from Scarborough residents as the city grapples with a possible 18% property tax hike. The city's budget advisory committee spent 2 months and countless hours going over the figures, but they only managed to cut a little over half of the $330 million budget shortfall.
Let's just make it very clear that nobody at Budget Committee voted for an 18% tax increase. 18% isn't going to fly at Council.
Scarborough Councillor David Soknacki says what the committee was trying to do was send a message to the province. It desperately needs help thanks to the cost of downloading.
We've done those cuts. If you want to see an 18% tax increase right now, that's the way it looks like. Perhaps we could have some things that would help the city deal with unique big city issues.
Big city issues like housing and public transit.
Every other city in North America, whether it be another city in Canada or the United States, either gets provincial, state, or federal funding of some type, except Toronto. Toronto is paid totally by the fare box and by the City of Toronto taxpayer, and that's not really fair because there are people outside of Toronto who come to work in Toronto who use the TTC who are being subsidized, whether it be from the 905 area or whether it be from as a tourist.
Scarborough Councillor Lorenzo Berardinetti agrees it's time the province stepped in.
If they don't assist, then the city has no other choice but to start looking at cutting essential services, because an 18% increase or even a 10% increase is out of the question. It's too high.
Councillor Ron Moser says the city just doesn't have the financial base to fund social programs downloaded by the province.
I think we should stick to what we do best. Fix our roads, clear the roads of snow, make sure our programs as far as recreational are done well.
The city's Policy and Finance Committee will get the chance to review the budget recommendations next week before they go on to Toronto City Council at the end of the month. At Birkdale and Ellesmere Roads in Scarborough, Deborah Hutchison, SPN.
What does $16,000 mean for the mayor? What does $9,999 mean for Doug Dickerson?
Well, I don't have that.
Somebody must.
Well, let's see the report.
Trying to track down who's spending what on Pickering Council can take a fair bit of legwork. Monday night, Pickering's executive committee released councillor expenses for the year 2000. The only numbers given were gross figures. There was no breakdown of where the money was spent. Mayor Wayne Arthurs was at the top of the list, spending just over $16,000, followed by former councillor Doug Dickerson and Ward 3's Rick Johnson. SPN went to Chief Administrative Officer Tom Quinn to see the breakdowns, but we were told that information wasn't available.
I know. And I don't have that information. The mayor's over at Regalis, and I believe he's at a hospital luncheon right now. So why don't you go see the mayor?
We caught up with the mayor in the restaurant parking lot. He told us the information is available, but not before SPN's news deadline Tuesday.
If Roger would like to have those in a more broken down form and make that request and give the staff some time to put that together, whether it's a day or 2 days, whatever it is, when they're doing other things, I'm sure they'll be happy to do that.
As far as his own expenses, Arthurs did give us a rough idea of where the money went.
Quickly, I can break that down probably into 3 areas. As of last year, partway through the year, I moved from a city vehicle to a car allowance, so part of it's direct travel-related expenses. It normally wouldn't be part of a corporate accounting. It would include any conference activity that I was involved with last year, and it would include the related public relations expenses that I have as the mayor.
With the exception of newly elected Councillor Bill McLean, the most frugal councillor was Dave Ryan, spending $4,500 in 2000.
I think I make good use of the technology that's available.
But Ryan has his own concerns about how the information is being presented.
What I will say is what I said earlier this evening, and that is that the budget document or the expense document that was reported this evening is not a full picture of all of the expenses associated with all of the council activities.
Councillor allowances are broken into 6 categories: food and alcohol, conventions, newsletters, mileage, secretarial services, and communication tools. Arthur says city staff will provide SPN with spending figures for each category by the end of the week.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Through you to Mr.
In Council Chambers, Lisa Fender, SPN.
We're not just talking about the inconvenience to the community, we're talking about businesses that are having a very difficult time getting their employees in and out.
It seems Pickering won't be getting the road improvements it had hoped for from Durham Region in 2001. Out of 8 projects that need regional funding this year, only 1 will be part of the budget. Regional Councillor Rick Johnson says Pickering will have to wait its turn.
Over the last 13 years that I've been on council, I know that Pickering has not been shortchanged. 3-year period, we did over $20 million worth of roads, and all the monies being spent from the region of Durham in their public works budget over the 3 years all went to Pickering.
The region is spending close to $2 million on several road improvements, including signal lights and warning gates for the tracks at Altona and Finch.
Well, the sky is falling is used by a number of politicians.
On a similar note, some councillors criticize the region for not taking Pickering's input seriously. The region is currently undergoing a who does what services and review study. Councillors wonder if Pickering's suggestions will be implemented.
If you don't attend those committee meetings, it's unfortunate, but if you're not available there to actually see how it operates, it's real difficult to comment.
And on a final note, local Pickering councillors will now officially be called city councillors. The title change is to reflect Pickering becoming a city on January 1st, 2000. It's out with the old and in with the new at the Pickering Civic Center. City officials say their website is already outdated, so they've redesigned it.
We would hope that residents and businesses would come to our website to look for information that they would otherwise have to come in person to the Civic Complex to find. We would hope that they would be able to find the information on the website, and if they're looking for something in particular that they don't find, we would certainly hope that they would let us know what they're looking for so we can put that information on the website for them. Save them time, save them from having to come here in person on days when really they don't have time to do that.
Cityofpickering.com includes public transportation maps, commonly requested forms, information on garbage collection, a list of upcoming events, and information for developers. University of Toronto administrators say students at their Scarborough campus are making an overwhelming commitment to the future of university life. UTSC students have voted in favor of handing over their own cash each term to generate enough money to build a student center. Full-time students will give up $60 per term, while part-timers will contribute $18 per session. The contributions will add up to $14 million over the next 30 years and pay for the construction and operation of the center.
Since the government will not support
or finance a non-academic building or non-academic component of the university, the students had to take the initiative. And what the students have done was demonstrated some solidarity and some protest by coming together and stating that they really need this type of support, this type of building, this type of a structure.
Students are hoping the university can come up with $3.5 million to help fund the center. In the meantime, a vision has to be developed for architects and a business plan needs to be tabled. If all goes well, U of T officials say the student center will be up and open by 2004 or 2005.
Yes. If you look at the signs, you're actually in a no stopping area here.
The numbers are in for the school safety blitz in Scarborough. Between March 26th and April 6th, officers at 42 Division targeted several schools to crack down on driving violations. They laid a total of 154 charges under the Traffic Act and issued 103 cautions. 96 drivers received parking tickets. Officers say as the word got out about the school safety zone program, offenses diminished.
This area here is meant to be clear because the children, when they cross the road, they get hit by cars.
A Durham police officer involved in the Montgomery-Harmon case has been cleared of any wrongdoing by the Special Investigations Unit. Harmon, a suspect in the deaths of his wife and daughter, was being treated for a drug overdose at Ajax Pickering Hospital and died just hours after being charged with murder. The SIU probed the death because Harmon was in police custody at the time. An autopsy reveals Montgomery-Harmon's death was due to a blood clot. According to the SIU, the arresting officer is not criminally responsible for the death. Marcia Harmon and her 6-year-old daughter Danielle were discovered dead in their Pickering home March 26th. She's been missing for 6 days and police are hoping the public can help locate her. 27-year-old Patricia Ann Walker was last seen at her Scarborough home Wednesday. She is described as white, 5'4", with a medium build. She now has short, curly blonde hair. Her eyes are blue and she occasionally wears glasses. Police say she may be driving a dark green 1995 Honda Civic 2-door hatchback. The car has slight damage to the front bumper and plastic pig heads hanging from the rearview mirror. We have good news about another missing Scarborough resident. Basil Thomas disappeared last week but has been located. The 81-year-old was disoriented and taken to Markham-Stouffville Hospital. That's the news in Scarborough and Pickering for Tuesday, April 10th. Coming up on SPN, Urban Safari looks at fish in quarantine.
The programs on Rogers Television are made possible in part by the support of local sponsors.
The Waterfront, unique, casual, and fine dining. Overlooking beautiful Lake Ontario, the Waterfront offers exquisite seafood and steak combinations, chicken entrees, pasta, and a wide selection of appetizers. Banquet facilities, live entertainment, but most of all, the view. 401 to Liverpool Road. Follow the East Shore Marina signs. If you miss us, you're in the water.
Community, local business, and Rogers Television, working together to keep you better informed.
Coming up on SPN, Ontario parents could soon choose the school their kids attend. We asked Scarborough residents what they think of the idea. But first, Urban Safari. Officials at the Toronto Zoo tell us why it's important to quarantine fish.
Welcome to another edition of Urban Safari. I'm Deborah Hutchison. Joining us here today is Jeff Young, and we're in the health center, and these fish are under quarantine. Now, you don't usually think of fish under quarantine. Why?
Well, generally we always think of primates and larger animals as having the ability to pass diseases. But if you look at the aquariums, water is the most perfect medium for disease transmission. So these new fish that we've got in are for a couple of very large displays, one being 23,000 gallons and the other being 4,000 gallons. And you can imagine trying to net out a sick fish out of a tank that large. So what we try and do is prevent them from passing diseases on to their tank mates once we introduce them all. So we put them through a 40-day quarantine. We have our vets doing blood work, scraping, gill snips, checking for any parasites.
Blood work? Now, how would you go about doing blood work on a fish?
Well, it takes a lot of practice and a little tiny needle, and they, after trying the procedure a couple of times, have been able to extract a small amount of blood, and they can check the fish to make sure everybody's healthy. There's obvious signs of when fish are sick, but we're able to see what they have that they're harboring that they're not showing signs for and take a proactive treatment for it.
So 40 days is quite a long time. It has to be that long?
Well, you generally want to run that long to make sure you're seeing making sure that the fish have adapted well to their environment and they're not showing any signs. Sometimes it takes much longer than that. If they come down with a disease and we have to treat it, we then like to sort of start the procedure again. We also run some medicated gels or some water treatments through the fish to ensure, to the best of our ability without compromising them, that they're clean on the inside and on the outside.
So while they're under quarantine, you're giving them medication as a preventative measure just in case there's something there, or do you only give them medication when you find something wrong?
A little bit of both. If the vets find any kind of parasites in their treatment, then we'll run all the medicated gels through the fish, offering it instead of their regular diet. If they look really, really well, we may pass on that. It's sort of a veterinarian's evaluation. So while they're in quarantine, it's really important for us to make sure that we maintain separate equipment for all the tanks. You'll notice the tanks are spaced apart, and we wash our hands with disinfecting soap in between each tank. You want to minimize the communication of water or equipment from tank to tank.
And how many fish are put in each little aquarium here?
That'll vary on the size of the tank, the size of the fish, but it can range anywhere from 5 or 6 up to 150, 200.
Even when you get, though, I would think 200 in one tank, if one is sick, that would be really difficult to pick him out of the group.
It's not. In these small tanks, it's really easy to pick them out. Generally, they do not swim well with the group, or they'll stand on their own, and you can net them out quite easy. You can always drop the water level in the tank. But it's when they get to that 23,000 gallons, no matter how good of an angler you think you are, you just can't get the one.
Where are these fish from?
These are from a really reputable wholesaler in Florida who has some beautiful ponds for breeding, and his standards and quality of fish have really come through for us.
And they're going to be going where once they pass the quarantine?
Well, we'll start the long process of slowly acclimating them to the new tank in Africa Pavilion. It's the Lake Malawi display.
So Jeff, once they pass the quarantine, then it's a lengthy process to reintroduce them into their environment.
Right. This is a brand new tank, so we're going to run our mechanical system for about a month. And once we know all the kinks are worked out of the system and everything's operating properly, then we'll start to add the fish. And we'll probably give about a week or two in between adding the different batches of fish.
How many different kinds of fish are there here that you're taking care of?
If I had to guess, it's about 25 to 30 different varieties. And that number will increase in time. We're just full right now, so it's hard to bring in any more.
So it's going to take quite a while before these fish get their new home.
Yes, and everybody here is counting the days. It's a lot of work maintaining them.
Okay. Jeff, good work. Thanks so much for joining us on Urban Safari. And thanks to you for joining us on another edition of Urban Safari.
The programs on Rogers Television are made possible in part by the support of local sponsors.
The Waterfront, unique, casual, and fine dining. Overlooking beautiful Lake Ontario, the Waterfront offers exquisite seafood and steak combinations, chicken entrees, pasta, and a wide selection of appetizers. Banquet facilities, live entertainment, but most of all, the view. 401 to Liverpool Road. Follow the East Shore Marina signs. If you miss us, you're in the water.
Community, local business, and Rogers Television, working together to keep you better informed.
The speech from the throne is scheduled for next Thursday. Education reform is expected to be included. Sources close to the premier say there will likely be a call for parents to choose what school they want their kids to attend. We asked Scarborough residents what they think.
Well, as a parent, I'm thrilled with that because our kids are in schools that we're not particularly happy with. And I would like the choice at times to choose what school I'd like them to go to.
For me, that's a fantastic idea because I think that my kids deserve the right to go to the schools of their choice.
Obviously, parents are going to choose a school to go to, and one school is obviously going to be overcrowded. Either some schools are going to become deserted, abandoned maybe, and maybe closed down.
The teachers, there's some of the teachers that are better qualified than others as far as I'm concerned, and if you have a school where they're very high academically and you want your child to go, I think that should be allowed to go.
Being members of the community, they are most times aware of what is happening. They should be able to choose an appropriate curriculum for which their sons or daughter would be suited for.
I'm saying that if you're close to a school, I don't think it's wise to transfer your child to, another district because sometimes it could be crowded in that area.
It kind of takes away from populating your own area schools, and then they might close. But if they were doing fine before you got there, then they should continue to do fine if your kid goes to another school, right?